Just sign in before you have a seat. All right, just check. Okay, so we're gonna go till 6:30 today. For those who have to leave for their 6 o'clock class, we will kind of take a stop break for about 5 minutes, so that you guys can go. I will put up the recording onto the website, onto your module, so that you can finish watching it. No worries, there's fun trucking you need to go to, that's fine too, it's on the module, it'll be okay.
This will be the last week I'll have.
But it was a last minute change, so to make it easier for me too. So, all right, so today I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Corso. He is many things, he's gonna tell you all about the many things he is, but he's also an instructor here, teaches A&E 102 and 201. And so if you are going into nursing, you're going to possibly see him, you will see him. Unless he decides to retire in the next year, which I doubt, because I don't think he'll ever stop. We'll have to pull him out of here in a hurry. So I'm going to, with all due respect, turn it over to you. So it's all yours. So today's our motivational speaker, Mr. Corso.
Ms. Kaseka asked me to come in because of some of the challenges I faced in life and how I overcome some of those challenges. How much people pushed me very hard, particularly in my military days. And the fact that I was pushed very hard and had to overcome a lot of obstacles and a lot of challenges in my life. And basically, one of those challenges was to believe in myself and my own abilities when other people didn't believe in me. So you can forget the advanced human physiology. I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of my 5-hour presentation that I give the first day of class with my advanced class to get them properly motivated for the rigors that they're going to have to face in that class. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Are there any veterans in here? Any veterans? Okay. I always bring this up. We have the Army, the Air Force, the Space Force, the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I served in 1966 and 1969 during the heat of the Vietnam War. And while I was in the military, I was all gung-ho. Almost all of my relatives had served in World War II. My father only had one eye. He had a prosthetic eye. He served in World War II. World War II, if your heart was beating, your lungs were breathing, and you didn't get any medical waivers. He pushed paper, but he served his country for 2 years. So I never questioned the Vietnam War. I remember being in high school, sitting in the back row and kind of chuckling with one of my buddies, being very immature. And the history professor or the teacher, back then we had pull down charts. We didn't have all this fancy stuff. And he said, gentlemen, those of you in the back row need to pay attention to this country right here called Vietnam, because you may be in that country in a couple more years. And I think we were juniors at the time. So I always ask that because when I went back to Indiana State University, the apathy, I was never spit on as a veteran, but the apathy and so what, you serve your country, so what? And that's just the way it was. It is not the way it is now, where you have all of these veterans dinners. You have all of the thank you for your service, which would have been unheard of in the 60s and the 70s, even the 80s to some degree. And so I always ask that because when they went around the room when I went back to college, I had indicated I had served 3 years with Special Forces. And next. There was no thank you for your service or thank you for putting yourself at risk for our country. So from that standpoint, every class, every semester, I always ask if I have any veterans for that particular reason. Okay, I served with the Special Forces. I saw that I was going to get drafted. I went to college. I wasn't prepared for college. My father was a high school dropout. My mother only finished the 8th grade in a one-room schoolhouse in the hills of Virginia. They met each other at a USO dance at somewhere in, I think it was Fort Woodrow Wilson in Virginia. And so I really didn't have the guidance coming up, somebody holding me accountable, getting my homework done. It certainly wasn't like the way my wife and I did with our daughters. We said, if you're not bringing homework home and you're not showing it to us, we know that something's wrong somewhere. We're going to be talking to your teachers, because we wanted our daughters to be held accountable and to do well. And they both did. They both graduated from Indiana University. So I bring this up because if you look at my stature, I'm 5'6", and at the time I was 130 pounds. I was a lightweight. And a lot of people, when I saw I was going to get drafted, I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. I joined the Army, and I joined the Army so I could choose my profession. If you're drafted, they can put you anywhere they want to. And I always had a desire in medicine and science. So what I did is I joined for 3 years. I was going to become a combat medic. I wasn't a conscientious objector, so they go shoot me. I'll shoot back at them. So I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. Went through basic training in the blizzard of '67. That was a real trip, I can tell you that. Doing all the training in about 3 feet of snow, because Kentucky doesn't have snow plows, I found out, I guess. And so I breezed through basic training. I earned the physical fitness trophy. I was in good shape. I hung out with a bunch of guys that were always playing ball outside, and we just pushed each other. None of us smoked. None of us really drank in high school. So when I went to basic training, I was already in good physical condition. I had a resting heart rate of about 44 beats per minute, which is really good. So all the stuff they were asking us to do was to get people out of shape, in shape. Well, if you're already in shape, it's a yawner. Okay, you're not being pushed at all. So after I graduated from basic training, I went to basic medical school to become a combat medic, which would be the equivalent of an EMT today. Now I point out that EMTs and paramedics and the medevac system was not around in the 60s or the 50s. All that stuff came out of the Vietnam War. We found out that choppers could get into the jungle areas, get somebody who was badly shot up, and get them back to what you would call a MASH unit, if you will, and take care of them and get them stabilized. And more people survived their wounds rather than dying from their wounds. So I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and San Antonio. And down there, they herded about 500 of us basic combat medics into this big air-conditioned theater. And all of a sudden, there was this Green Beret that got up on stage. And man, he looked great this year. And President John Kennedy had just approved the headgear, the Green Beret, in it was either 61 or 62. I graduated from high school in 64. And I went in the military in 66. So we were down there, and this Green Beret's up there, and what I liked about him, he was no nonsense. He said, gentlemen, he says, we're losing medics too fast. All of you are here to get the basic medical science, but if you come with us and you make it through all of our criteria, you're going to be trained with about the equivalent of 2 years of medical school in about 1 year. It was very intense. We were going 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. We had Sundays off, generally speaking, unless we were out doing field exercise. Out of the 500 people that were in that auditorium, there were about 35 of us that were interested and ultimately went to the back of the room. Now, before we made that decision, the Green Beret up there on stage, he said, this is what you have to consider before you get up and go to the back of the room. Number one, you have to be willing to jump out of airplanes. I don't know why. I always wanted to do that. I really didn't have a fear of heights per se. I was always jumping off the roof of my home garage on the other side so my mother wouldn't see me. And I was dropping and rolling and learning how to tuck and roll and that kind of stuff. You had to be eligible immediately for a secret security clearance. You couldn't have a lot of DUIs. They would let one slip by, but not 2 or 3. You couldn't have a lot of speeding tickets that showed the habitual offender. Couldn't have any drug convictions. things of that nature. Then you had to take their PT test. Well, I was already in shape, but their PT test was, let's say, 3 times harder than basic training, and I really had to push myself to complete and do well in that. Then they gave an academic test. The academic test wasn't about algebra and geometry, but it was about, let's just say, you and I are on a 12 man A team. The mission is, you're the demolition guy. You've been trained in blowing up bridges. I'm the medic. And we have 12 of us, and we have to split apart for a variety of reasons. And we're in this triple canopy jungle, which means I can't really let you go any further than here. Because if you go as far as where he is, I'll never find you in that triple canopy jungle. That's how thick it is. That can be particularly in Laos. So anyhow, the mission was to blow this bridge. We needed to blow the bridge because the Russians were dropping off the tanks in Haiphong Harbor. And if those tanks go across this bridge, those tanks are going to kill about 1,000 Americans. So the idea is for us is we have to get that bridge, assuming we don't get captured and killed ourselves, and blow that bridge. On our way there, you step on what we call a toe popping mine. These are not the big ones. The big ones just turn into pink mist. There's nothing like it. The toe poppers, they kind of blow off your foot, blow off the lower part of your leg, and you're going to bleed a lot. Now, you don't know me. We haven't known each other a long time, but if you and I have gone through training for a long period of time, there's this bond. We're closer than brothers. Now, do I leave you behind and take all the charges, and I go by myself try to blow that bridge because that mission is important? Or do I abandon the mission? Do I stay with you? And let's just say you're a big guy, and I got to slowly drag you back to some sort of evac area and get you out of there. And the correct question was, sometimes you have to leave somebody behind. Losing you is nothing compared to losing 1,000 Americans. So those were the kind of decisions that they were asking us to make on that test. So at the end, he says, okay, all of you that are interested, you may go to the back of the room. But let me tell you one more thing. If you graduate and you become a medic for us, all of you are going to Vietnam. And he said, 1/3 of you are going to die within a year. 1/3 of you are going to be severely injured, and 1/3 of you will come back physically whole. And talk about PTSD back then. Even after he said that, 35 of us out of that 500 got up out of that beautiful soft cushioned seats and walked to the back of the room. And I'll never forget. To this day, I can't explain why I got up, but I did. I got up and I turned around. I'm walking, and all these people, they said, "You have a death wish. You're crazy. You're nuts." As I was walking to the back of the room, and then the Green Beret asked us a few more questions, and ultimately the process started. I remember telling my buddies. A couple of them didn't have to go in because they had medical requirements for one reason or the other. And they laughed. They said, "You are not going to make it. You're too small." In their eyes, I had to be a linebacker. I had to be the size of a linebacker on the football team to make it to be a Green Beret. It's not about brawn. Brawn helps in some cases, particularly if I'm the guy that shot and you're the linebacker. You can carry me, but if you get shot and you're the linebacker and I'm 130 pounds, I'm going to have a heck of a time getting you to a safe place. So they laughed at me, and they couldn't believe that I had gone through 18 months of training, 12 of it belonging. I went to paratrooper school, and that was a blast. You run, when you go to paratrooper school, you run every place. There's no such thing as walking. You're caught walking. You're doing push-ups by some of the, what we call the black hat cadre. You jog everywhere when you're at paratrooper school. We have a 34-foot tower that we jumped off of. Then kind of like what you would see at Great America, they had a 250-foot tower. They would take you up, they spread the canopy out, and then they got the bullhorn. They said, "Okay, we're gonna let you go." And they let you go, and you drop, and then the ship catches, and then you slowly go to the ground. You have what we call phase 1 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The paratrooper training was at Fort Benning. Go to phase 1 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And that's basically learn how to use a compass, try to find your way around the UR National Forest down there without getting lost. You have to really learn land navigation very well. And then after that, they break your group up, and my group of about 50 of us became medics. And so they shipped us over to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. That's where we started working on cadavers, learning all the muscles and bones in detail. We were taught strictly by physicians. We were taught about how bad the trauma was going to be that we were going to see in Vietnam. A 22 caliber pistol, if you don't mind, a 24 caliber pistol probably has a bullet about this size, and you can get shot several times with a 22 and not die as long as it doesn't hit the vital organs. Okay. When you talk about an M16 or an AK-47, which is what they use in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were using in Vietnam, there's such high velocity that you get hit by one of those things. If they would hit me in the shoulder, it could take my entire arm off. Okay, that's how powerful they are. And what happens is when the bullet goes in here, it may make an opening like this, but the vacuum, because of the high speed that's coming out here, it'll create a big hole on your back and really rack up a bunch of tissue. So the chances of living off those things, I mean, some people have. They showed us how some of these pictures where these guys, their entire intestines were laying out on the ground in the dirt, and you don't know if they're going to live or not. Some of these guys have had most of their heads blown off. You don't know if they're going to live or not. And of course, you're trying to take care of them. They train you in a firefight situation with all this noise. You have to block it out, and they're constantly yelling and screaming at you. They're constantly yelling and screaming at you because they want you to focus and block out everything they're doing to you. Just totally blocking it out, which was a good lesson for me because I learned to focus and just ignore that stuff. So after I was, there was 10 weeks back at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Then we came back to Fort Bragg, and my group went to Fort Knox. They spread us out to the various hospitals in a geographical location that was close. I chose Fort Knox, Kentucky, Ireland Army Hospital, to where we did various rotations. I love working at ER. The ER there's no 2 days the same. You have a lot of diversity of injuries that come through and illnesses, and I absolutely loved it. And so when we did our rotations there, that was January, February of 68. Excuse me, is that right? Yes, 68. And then we came back to Fort Bragg. We finished another 10 to 12 weeks in which we worked with animals, what was known as dog lab. I won't go into too much detail there. I was under a non-disclosure agreement with the military. All of us were. When I was released, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement on the training that I had. I could not reveal anything for 20 years, or I'd have a $10,000 fine and 10 years in prison. It was a federal crime. So a lot of the things I had to keep to myself. In fact, I was married quite a long time before I finally shared it with my wife, because I didn't want her to slip up and talk to somebody, said, well, my husband told me this was his type of training that he had. So a lot of us now, it's been 53 years. A lot of this stuff now is coming out. A lot of guys are writing books. And quite honestly, what I did versus what some of these other guys did, it's just absolutely unbelievable. You could not make a Rambo movie, and you wouldn't believe that Rambo movie on what these guys actually did. And if you ever want to hear some of those stories, we can go on YouTube. They're called Sodcasts. Sod was a nickname that nobody really talked about. It was the area of the highest risk. They had 100% casualties. If you went with a SOG team, they were recon teams that went across the fence, as they call it. They were going into Laos and Cambodia where we were not supposed to be. So everybody was denying that we were there, and you're just supposed to be in Vietnam. But SOG stands for Studies and Observation Group. Very benign term. And they had it in some sort of a shack somewhere where they had a couple of bases. And they knew that the reporters wouldn't be interested in the studies and observation. Okay, they want to go where the action is. what actually was SOG. So they now have SOGcasts. There's 18 of those. They're about 2 hours long. So if you ever want to watch those, that would be on YouTube and SOGcast 1 through 18. And I understand they got a total of 32 that are coming. So ultimately I graduated and I earned my Green Beret. And my buddies couldn't believe it. This is what I looked like at age 23 before I got the gray hair and the wrinkles. What you see on the top of my head, only 1% of the individuals who's ever served in the United States Army have been able to earn those. I have two. We had one that we earned the first time, and then we had a dress beret. That means so much to me because I went through a living hell to get it. And I embrace it each and every day. I'm glad that I was able to live long enough into my 70s. Because I have several of my friends that are on the Vietnam Wall. Next slide, please. This is the Vietnam Wall. There's over 58,000 names on there. It's coming out now that about 1/3 of the names that are on there, I'll say 25 to 30% of the names on there, died due to friendly fire. You got the B-52s, or you got the various aircraft coming, triple canopy jungle, you're in a firefight, the guy's saying, drop it on us because we're gonna die anyway. Because what the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese did is they tried to get close to you because they knew that, which we had total command of the air, they knew if they got close to you, they wouldn't drop those canisters of napalm. And that's how they got them. But if they got close to us, they wouldn't drop it. And sometimes these guys just said, drop it anyway, because we're gonna die anyway if you don't drop it. That means we're looking at people so close that maybe to that wall or maybe to the next room over. Well, you drop those canisters of napalm and a little wind shift can just blow it right over onto your guys. And a lot of our guys got hit with napalm. Napalm is nasty stuff. If you stop and think about smearing Vaseline on you and lighting it on fire and then trying to wipe it off, you can't. And that's the way napalm works. When I was at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, I worked in Brooke Army Medical Center, and that's where they had a lot of the burn cases. I mean, folks, I still think about the guys that I saw, and honestly, I just prayed that they got away. Their eyes were burned out, their noses were gone, all their lips were gone, they had no ears, they were all on a trach and a ventilator, and you just wondered how a human body could live with that kind of damage. So when I look up here, and also it is common, you go in, you're scared to death, you're in this jungle, and normally when you set up an L-shaped ambush, you got guys over here, you got guys here, so the fire goes this way. Well, what happens is you can get discombobulated and people kind of move this way, and now you start shooting each other and you wind up killing each other. And the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese, they were stupid. They were playing in their backyard and they knew that. I have 3 people that are on this wall. One of my high school classmates, Tom Priesthoff, he was killed by friendly fire. An artillery shell came up short and it hit his vehicle and killed him. His engagement to a gal in the class behind us was announced in the paper on Sunday, small town, big spread in the social page. And then on Monday morning, when we had 2-a-day papers, it said Tom Priesthoff killed by friendly fire. And that shook up our community quite a bit. Then there was my Green Beret Sergeant Major, great guy. He was in World War II at age 17, I think, maybe 18, but I think he was 17. He had seen combat in World War II. He had seen combat in Korea, and he wanted to go to Vietnam. He was 42 or 44 years of age. He didn't have to go. He just wanted to go. And he was on a mission in which the chopper was blown out of the air, and the chopper went down, and he was killed. We had just had kind of like a little farewell party for him, a couple of drinks and some food. And he left in January of 63. He left in January of '69. He was killed in April of '69. And then my medic classmate, Howard Hill, he was one of the SAW guys. When you get over to Vietnam, they would ask you if you wanted to become a member of SAW. They couldn't tell you what it was. You're either in or you're out. Like me coming to you. All right, you want to volunteer for SAW? That's all I can tell you. You're either in or you're out. If you're out, have a nice day, take off. For those of you who stay behind, then we go into what you can expect. And the SAW guys they went behind the enemy lines in Laos and Cambodia. They would usually have 2 or 3 Americans and about 5 or 6 indigenous people. And their job was to be inserted and not be discovered and try to find out where all these battalions and regiments were in Cambodia and Laos, which were supposed to be neutral, but they weren't. And they were storing all of their weapons over there. And we were trying to find out where they were at. They would come back, and then they would give the coordinates, and then the B-52s would come in and drop their bombs on that area. So it was quite rigorous in the training. I always tell my students, you're never going to see me in a bad mood, because my name is not on this wall, as are 3 of my friends. Because, see, Sergeant Major Carl Pilkington was killed in April '69, and Howard Hill was killed 3 days before my birthday. Remember that? It was May of '69. So the young man, Howard, just, prime of his age, never got a chance to live life. Next slide, please. Now, I did not have the maturity and the focus. As I said, my father was a high school dropout. My mother only finished the 8th grade. So I didn't have the mentoring to be held accountable for my studies. So I just kind of floated through. I was never a bad kid. I never got in trouble or anything like that. But if you think of just a dry leaf blowing in the wind, that was me. Just kind of whenever it went. Well, finally, I realized going into my senior year, everybody's been telling me what to do. And now finally, after the senior year, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And I have to make my own decisions. That was a sobering thought for me at that time. And so when I went to Indiana State, it was very, very in-depth research on how I chose Indiana State. It was because my 2 buddies said they were going to. Okay, I'll go with my 2 buddies. And I had been friends with them since 1st grade. We both went to Catholic school and so forth. So we go. So it was very, very cerebral how I chose Indiana State. And so I went down there. My 2 buddies were doing better academically than I was. And back then they had a draft. And if your GPA dropped below 2.0 initially, and then they raised it to 2.5, because the colleges would report to the draft boards. And then they would come and you're going to get drafted. So I saw I was going to get drafted, and that's when I decided to join. And I went through the whole process and ultimately became a Green Beret. That training, learning how to focus, being held accountable for everything, from the way your shoes are spit shine to the way your belt buckle looks, everything was about detail. Because as they pointed out to us, it's the little detail that either gets you killed or get other people killed. All right. I came back after I was discharged from the military. I got out in December of '69. I knew I wanted to go back to college. I knew I felt I could handle it. I was a little unsure because I said, I'm going to go back. Got these hot shots coming right out of high school. So I went back, and it was kind of like, get out of my way. That was my attitude. After what I had just gone through for 3 years and having to study to earn my Green Beret and all the other stuff, because by the way, you go and run 2 or 3 miles before breakfast, you have breakfast, then you go to class, you have a little bit of a lunch, finish class, come back, and now you run another 2 or 3 miles or 5 miles, depending on who's running you, and then you're able to eat supper, and then you still have to study. So it was all very, very regimented. So when I came back, I went back to Indiana State University, and instead of sitting in the back row, which is where I usually did, and I would sit behind somebody like you, I would slouch down so the teacher couldn't see me, would never call on me. When I got out of the military, I was sitting in the front row. I was asking questions. I was raising my hand. I needed to know. And one of the things I learned in the military was it's not about getting an A or B. It's understanding the knowledge they're giving you so you can apply that knowledge to help someone. All right. I had to make sure I understood the metric system on how to do conversions and with various medications. Because if you don't, micrograms are different than milligrams. And if you give somebody a bunch of milligrams, you can kill that person if you don't know what you're doing. So I finally learned you had to know what you're doing. And so I came back and I went to Indiana State University and I met my lovely wife. We're going to be celebrating 50 years next month. And I'm very blessed to have found that young lady in my life. Then I went to Ball State University and got a master's in physiology and health science. My undergrad was health science. And then the PA programs, physician assistant programs, they were just kind of starting up. And Indiana was a little backward in recognizing PAs at the time. Now PAs are all over the place. So I was in the second graduating class from the IU School of Medicine. I ultimately went on and I worked in occupational medicine because of my trauma care experience, had a lot of suturing to do. And then after that, I went into pharmaceutical sales for 20. And then I wound up here at Ivy Tech for 16 years. I refer to this as my retirement hobby. I absolutely love teaching at this institution. Now, the one point I'm going to make about that, nobody believed in me. My buddies didn't believe in me because I was of small stature to be able to earn a Green Beret. And I had academic counselors who didn't believe in me because those academic counselors were, after they recognized the athletes, it probably hasn't changed much in high school these days. If you're an athlete, you get a lot of attention and special care with academics possibly. And then the academic all-stars, those are the ones that make you feel so inferior. They're on the brain gain teams, You say, I didn't even understand the question, let alone try to come up with the answer. The fact that I ultimately got this kind of education, and I came from a family where my father was a high school dropout and my mother only finished the 8th grade. Las Vegas does not give odds on people like me to even go to college, let alone accomplishing those goals. Now, what actually changed in me during that period of time, in the 3 years? Do I have any scars? Any scars anywhere?
Not that I could see.
Do I have any scars on me? Well, I didn't get a brain transplant, okay? I didn't get a brain transplant. What changed in me in those 3 years was some of these things that are on here. These are key factors. Number one, I stayed away from the people. In the training, people are moaning and groaning, oh my God, we got to run 3 miles instead of 2 miles. Suck it up, all right? That's what they're asking you to do, to run 3 miles. The more you complain, the more the cavalry comes after you. So you take a bad situation and keep that positive attitude. Surround yourself with positive friends. During this time going through training, there were a couple of guys I just wanted to hang out with all the time because, all right, yeah, we're all in the same boat. We're all getting brutalized, but we all kept our spirits up together. And we let the negative talking people alone and let them do their thing. I learned about self-sacrifice. I learned that I can't be comfortable all the time. In fact, in special forces, you're comfortable 90% of the time. When they put you through the POW training program, you're going to be exposed to extreme cold, extreme heat, sleep deprivation, food deprivation. They're going to put you in stress positions until your muscles cramp. And everybody's going to break in the POW training. Okay, the training is called SEERS, Survive, Evade, Resist, and Escape is what the acronym stands for. And it's very unpleasant, and yes, they did waterboard us. And after having been waterboarded, I had no desire to become a Navy SEAL because they're in water all the time, and they feel like they're drowning all the time, as far as I'm concerned. But I learned about self-sacrifice. I learned that after doing everything we have to do during the day, and you only have a limited amount of time, and you're exhausted. I mean, you're exhausted, but you better study. if you're being tested the following day or what have you, you better study, you better know your material. Because nobody wanted to be flunked out of the Green Berets because they would ship you off to the 82nd Airborne Division, which is a tier down, and that you want to be up here. That was the top tier of special forces, and not being with the 82nd Airborne. So I learned a lot about self-sacrifice. I lost a lot of sleep to make sure that I knew what I knew before I went in for that exam. The exams didn't intimidate me as much as they used to, because I knew I was more prepared. But there's a lot of sacrifice. I bring self-sacrifice up also because when I went back to Indiana State University, a couple of guys who didn't have to go in the military, they were now working on the graduate degrees, masters. And, say, our buddies, we've been buddies a long time. You've been in the military 3 years, you probably haven't seen a woman in a long time. We got St. Mary of the Woods over here, an all-girls school. We'll set you up with a date. We're dating a couple of chicks over there. And I would say, no, I don't. Well, they wanted to rush me to the hospital. Because that wasn't the way I was prior to going into the military. I was saying, no, I've got to make up for some lost time here. Everything I'm doing is either I'm working, I'm going to school, I'm taking my tests, and trying to sleep, okay, for what I can. So I learned to give up some of the things I absolutely love to do for the betterment of a goal that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to be the first one in my family ever to go to college and get a degree. Okay. Self-discipline. Self-discipline is something that there are times you just don't want to do it, but you learn that your brain's going to tell your body what to do and not your body tell you what your brain what to do. And self-discipline is, man, I've got, in my class, I got a lot of homework in that advanced physiology class. I really want to do that. I'd rather just kind of watch Netflix or something, or go out with my friends. No, self-discipline is, if I want to go to nursing school, if I want to get through nursing school, if I want to get a degree from nursing school and practice that profession, I have to sacrifice now. Self-discipline. Priorities. I didn't have any priorities per se when prior to going to the military. I was like so many, I'd like to get a college degree. Didn't realize just how hard you have to work for it. I enjoyed when I went back to Indiana State, and I was sitting in the front row, and maybe some of the kids in the back row here were saying, hey, we got a kegger over at the frat house or the sorority house or something. And we're going to have a test on Monday, and this is going to be on the weekend. And I'm saying to myself, you have at it, go enjoy yourself, because I'm going to blow the curve. And I had a lot of fun blowing the curve. I wasn't sure when I went back to college after the military, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle the hot shots out of high school. But what I found out within about 4 to 5 or 6 weeks max was they didn't have these things. They didn't know about self-sacrifice. They didn't know about self-discipline. And their priorities were having fun and not doing what they had to do to make sure they succeeded in that particular class. Persistence. Persistence and determination are something that a lot of people don't understand. This is something I have a problem with young people, particularly in athletics. They see all the people hitting the winning shot and all this kind of stuff. That's just for March Madness. What they don't understand is you have a lot of failures to go through before you learn enough to be successful at whatever it may be. And a lot of people quit. I use my advanced physiology class, but the toughest science course they have to get through prior to going to nursing school. You don't want to take that course while you're in nursing school. And I tell them on that first day, I give a 5-hour version of this. This is when I go over the syllabus and I tell them all the workload they have to have and complete. I said, if you don't think you can do it, I mean, there may be other personal reasons. You may be going through a divorce. You may be unhappy at your job. You may have a sick kid or a sick parent. If you got that stuff going on, this is not the time to take this heavy duty class. withdraw within the first 2 weeks, get your money back, don't waste your money, come back and see me again some other time. And I always tell them, I said, we have about a 30% withdrawal rate in that class. And that's about where we're at right now. We just took exam number 2. All the exams are 2.5 hours. So some people didn't take it serious when I said you have to have everything done on time. There's no extensions. And some people have realized you were right, I was wrong. I thought I could get through this class. I'm going to withdraw. I'll take this class a little more seriously the next time I enroll. Okay, good. We all go through failure. We all go through failure. To think anybody's going to be successful on everything they do, no. The compounds in pharmaceuticals, the number of failures they tried for antibiotics. Antibiotics didn't really were not around until right after World War II. They had a couple during World War II, but the real antibiotics didn't come around until after that. But the scientists had failure after failure after failure because some of those antibiotics were creating such tremendous side effects. It was putting the life of the patient in danger, more so than the infection that you were worried about. So failure is something you say, okay, I'm going to fall in this pothole. I'm going to climb back out, try not to fall in the same pothole again. What did I learn? We learn from our failures. We learn from our failures and not so much from our successes. I can go back and many of the tests that I've taken, and I can tell you some of those questions that I missed. I can't hardly tell you anything of the questions that I got right, but I can tell you the ones where I messed up and I got wrong. One of the things I learned also was preparation in the military. You do not go to class in the military unprepared, because there's a lot of pain involved if you are unprepared. Let's just say I don't think the military understands the English dictionary because everything is a profanity they use, and they let you have it. And not only do I scream and yell at you and make you feel like you're a little insect, but again, we're also going to have you do push-ups and maybe have you run a mile or do something because you were not prepared in my classroom. Being well organized, I had to be organized in the military. My socks had to be folded in a certain way. My underwear had to be folded in a certain way. My shoelaces on the shoes that I'm not wearing had to be tied in a certain way. And again, they were getting you to pay, they were motivating you strongly to pay attention to detail. When you're in the bush out in Vietnam, you were required by your sergeant, and you just hated the sergeants for this. I want you to take all the bullets out of your magazine. You got 20 bullets in that magazine. You take every one of them out. I want you to polish them, and I want you to put them all back in there. The last thing you want to happen is to have that magazine jam on you with one of those bullets in it during a firefight. Okay? Time management. This is probably critical in the military, particularly in the Green Berets, with all the studying, with all the physical training we had to do. Time management was extremely critical, because if you didn't manage your time and you were late for, oh, God forbid, if you were late for somebody's class, there was hell to pay. So you learned everything about time management. Okay, I got so much time to do this. I got so much time to do this. We get on at 6 o'clock. We eat, and then we got to study. Now, to give you an idea of how bad it can be in training, is there was a group of my colleagues, there were about 4, 5, 6 of us. We went out in the middle of the week. That is a no-no. We went out and we drank a little bit too much beer. We didn't get in until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, they start going around with referees' whistles. That's how you wake up. They come in, guys, this may be the room. They come in and they just blow that as loud and hard, it just pierces your head. And then what they'll do is go to the next room, the next room, the next room. Well, I wasn't on that outside wall, but one of the guys, his cot was there. And so, and when they blow that whistle, I don't care what kind of sleep you're in, you better come out and those bare feet better hit that floor and you better be standing erect within 15 to 30 seconds. Or so, like 15 seconds. Well, the cadre goes on down and he gets up. There were 8 of us in this room. And he shuts off the lights. We were going to try to get another 30 minutes erect. Well, he did something he'd never done. We had 3 floors. We were on the 2nd floor. I think we were room 221 or 2, I'll say 222. And so the guy goes up on the 3rd floor. Well, he did something he'd never done before. He came back down this way to see if anybody was still in the rack. Oh my God. Well, they found a bunch of guys. He took their names down. And he comes in, he just yelling and screaming. And oh, fire was coming out of the guy's mouth. It was like a fire-breathing dragon. He took all their names down. So we got up. Oh God, they're gonna do something to us. So we go to class and we come back. And little Sergeant Quello, man, I'm 5'6", Sergeant Quello was about 5'4", but nobody, I mean, we feared that guy, okay? He comes back, and of course, he goes through his profanity-laced tirade, and he's like, he's at front-leaning rest position. Front-leaning, you come out of formation, and you go into the push-up position. And he's going through blah, 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 and all of room 222. So all 8 of us come out, and so the rest of you are dismissed. So here we are in the front leaning rest position. And he says, all right, we're going to have inspection. Now you're going up there, you're going to get your bunks, and you're going to come down here and make your bed outside. These are iron bunks, by the way. All right. It takes 2 people to get them down the stairwell, no elevators, by the way. And go out, and you had to bring all your clothes down and your foot locker, and you had to put everything in direct, the direct sequence, and then you had to stand attention while they just chewed you out, and then you had to take it all back up. I don't know who was on the 3rd floor. It was bad enough for us on the 2nd floor. 2 guys taking these iron bunks up there, and we had to go and remake our bed and re-stand for inspection. And then they took us out for a 5-mile run. And by the way, every mile you drop for 20 push-ups, 30 push-ups. And we learned our lesson. There's a price to pay for not doing the things they want you to do. And it's a hard lesson, but it's a valuable lesson. So when I got back into civilian life, it was kind of nice to have people say please and thank you and not have profanity before or after those words. So time management is something that I learned, and I learned just to follow the protocols. Slide, please.
Well, I'm gonna stop up there for a
Yes, you
minute
go
because
ahead.
I have 6 o'clock, guys.
Oh, okay,
Ask
very good.
me to move on. The rest of this thing will be up on the module. And so we'll just let these guys go and then we'll keep going from there. We'll conclude, guys, at 6:30, so.
Okay.
Next slide. Go ahead.
Okay. Going through college, going through the military, adversity comes, as I say here, adversity comes in all sizes, shapes, and levels of intensity. Everyone experiences adversity throughout their lives. Therefore, it all comes down to 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you handle it. What happened to us in that formation where we had to stand inspection and outside and inside and so forth? Quite honestly, it was brutal when we went through it, but we started laughing about it afterwards, saying we deserved that because we were the ones that were in the wrong. Okay. Adversity. I had a conversation with a young lady. I don't know if any of you remember her or not. Jessica Lynch. Jessica Lynch was a POW 20 years ago, March 23rd, a couple of days ago. Her in Iraq, her group was ambushed, and a bunch of people were killed. They captured, the bad guys captured a bunch of her people. They thought she was dead until they were ransacking through the vehicle, and she moaned. And They captured her, but they took her to what a so-called hospital would be in Iraq, which was not much. And she was abused, and she had 2 fractured legs. She has nerve damage. She has to wear a brace. They were going to amputate her leg. She was crying a lot. And finally, they decided not to, but she had a fractured femur, so they took the femur out with no anesthetic, by the way, and put a rod in there, which was not sterile. She had a massive infection. But they found out where she was at, and they rescued her on April 1st of 2013. So when I talked to her, because we're getting her as a guest speaker for our veterans program next fall, and she's gone through a lot of therapy because she had a lot of bad things happen to her. Her team was also was rescued, and they get together on an annual basis. Because nobody can relate to what they went through except for each other. And as a result, she has overcome the adversity in what she's gone through. Now, I'm sure that in the background, she still has some PTSD. Will always have that for the rest of her life. She's 40 years old now. She has a 16-year-old daughter. But it's how you handle that adversity. And as she indicates, she says, I'm in a little town in West Virginia. There's no opportunity in West Virginia. She didn't want to go to work in the coal mines. So her and her brother joined the military. And as it turned out, these bad things happened to her, but she survived. And she's constantly looking at the positive side of life, which is absolutely amazing in my regard as to everything that she's had to endure that she's overcome. So let's go ahead and click on this. How will you respond under adversity? Let's see what that pulls up here. Okay.
Probably get a commercial first. That's just how YouTube. Maybe not.
Have some sound soon. Okay, I'm not sure that if my arm was bitten off by a shark, that I'd go back in and be a surfer again. But if you love that, if you love that, you would certainly do it. If you have the passion for that. The golf pro who had his legs crushed and came back to win championships. Wilma Rudolph, way before your time, she was a member of the 1960 Olympics in Rome, and she won some gold medals. And I never knew the story behind her that she actually was in braces. I don't know if she had polio, a mild form of it, but came back. And her mom said, you're going to have to get rid of the braces to be able to run. And she found a way of doing it. We all face adversity, but adversity comes in different ways and shapes and forms. You buy a brand new car, haven't even made the first payment on it. Well, you made a down payment, okay? And somebody smashes into it, okay? Within a couple of blocks after you drive it off the lot. That's adversity to you, and you probably saved a long time to be able to get your first new car, correct? Okay. You are in a vehicle, a new vehicle, an old vehicle. Let's make it an old vehicle. And you get T-boned. Somebody was texting, blew through a light, and now you have a spinal cord injury. Okay. That battered up brand new car doesn't look so bad because you weren't hurt and she was. Okay. You're in Vietnam and there's a big explosion and you lose both your legs. Very bad, isn't it? You, in an explosion, IED, you lose both your arms. You wind up having a brain injury. You have 80% of your body burned in second to third degree burns. They have to be, those scabs have to be, scars have to be, or scabs, they have to be scrubbed off. You're blind. You cannot speak. And you have a brain injury. Okay? Every one of those are adverse. Okay? The reason I do that is because that was done to us when I was in my medical training, because we were moaning and groaning and whining about how difficult the tests were in some of the Green Beret training. And we had this doctor, and he was no nonsense, man. He let us have it. And he did that, and he says, okay, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to change. So, yeah, 2 minutes, go. All of a sudden, you're saying, you can have my paralysis if I can have your damaged car, right? All right. Some people would not want to go without their arms, they would go without their legs first. Because your arms are used for so many things, you can learn to adapt from that. Burns, not pleasant, no matter any way you look at it. But I'm sure that you would find someone in here, maybe you can't speak due to brain injury, you'd be willing to trade with him. I don't know if he'd want to trade with you. So he did that, and it was a very sobering moment. And I do that in my classroom just to show them how bad life can be. And my wife says this, well, to some degree, it's marriage, but people who know me really well, I seldom complain. I go to a restaurant. Oh, sir, I'm so sorry. We broke your egg. We'll get you a new egg. I say, hey, it's going to go in there and get churned up in my stomach anyway. Okay? Or, your food's a little bit cold. You know what? I was eating C rations that were left over from World War II in Korea in the 60s. And by the way, there was no expiration date on those cans. The only thing they told us is if your can's bulging, don't eat it. It means it had Clostridium botulinum in there, which would kill you. So putting adversity in perspective, life is hard. There's a lot of potholes in life, and the key is not to fall in the same pothole. You learn by following the potholes, just don't fall in the same pothole twice. Okay? And when you fall down, how fast are you going to get back up? Would you click on this Next one, please.
People remember ads with a catchy song. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, here's a little number you'll never forget. Only pay for what you need.
Okay, now this is not about sports. How bad do you want something? It's a little bit of bullying. This is a 3-lap race, by the way. All out speed. One intention, which is pretty much. It needs to be 600 meters, 3,000. Lap is down.
Okay, and the homestead runner is just running amazing today. She did win her meet.
Keep your eyes on this young lady right here. Second. Second lap here. Look at that gap. If she wasn't injured, her teammate just went to the front of it. They may be able to recover from that. And Dorgan is flying down the front straight. He is going to catch Von Dor if she makes the leader. So, it's a big change. Amazing. To call it a 600, I mean, it's basically it's an extended 400 basically. But to call it 200 meters, you don't she went down. If she laid there 1 second longer, she would be collision. She is powering down this whole stretch, just doing everything she can to win this heat. That's determination. That's determination. How fast you can get up when you fall down. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is one that I really like. There's not a lot of verbiage to it, but it's very powerful when you watch it. Let's show the film and then I'll talk about it. Okay. All right, just take a look.
Look at the one that made it, watching all the other ones. So hard. They're giving up. That mom better come down the stairs.
Oh, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's so cute. I'm scared. I feel like being far away is better. I get a view of all of them. Some of them. She's just gonna leave them. Oh, the last, there we go. Last one. She knows. How cute is that?
What was that film? Give me your reaction to that film. Give me your reaction.
You're not giving up.
Yes, don't give up. How about you?
Same thing. Try until you succeed.
Try until you succeed? Have you ever been in a classroom where somebody gets the math really easy and you're so envious of them? Oh, listen, the guy, when I went to physician assistant school, the guy, we both had our degrees. He had his degree in physics and organic chemistry. The guy was really bright with math. And he made me better because I had to compete against him. But man, math, those numbers danced in front of him. When I looked at math, it put me in a coma. All right. So, all right, so proceed. But you saw that mom can't do that. The mommy duck couldn't do anything for them. The kids had to do it on their own. They watched, they learned, they tried, they failed, they tried, they failed. Some succeeded, and mommy was not going to go anywhere until that last one succeeded. That's the way it is in college, and that's the way it is in life. That's the way it is in life. Okay? The idea, the people who lose are the ones who give up. I talk to my students about holding on the tiger's tail. All my exams are classified as mental maulings because they're 2.5 hours each. But I said, hold on the tiger's tail. You're only going to lose when you let go of the tiger's tail. He's going to turn around and he's going to maul you. He's going to maul you. So the idea is you're going to get a rough ride, but if you don't let go of the tiger's tail, he's not going to maul you. Okay? One of my favorite sayings here is never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway. Hey, I know you're going to nursing school. Anybody else going to nursing school here? Okay, we'll probably see each other somewhere down the line with that advanced physiology class. But a lot of older folks come to me and they say, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not like some of these young pups. And I got to get in and I got to get through and I got to get out fast. When I hear that, I see train wreck. You cannot go and try to go fast because if you notice when you apply the nursing program, they only require a few classes for you to apply to get in. But guess what? If you get in and these other people that got in had all their science done, all 3 anatomy physiologies, their microbiology done, they have all the other non-nursing courses done, their knowledge base is here and you're here, and now you're going to struggle against them in nursing school and may not make it because they're basically setting the tone for the test. So I've always told people, be very methodical, take 1 class at a time if you need to, no more than 2, get your A's and B's, okay, do well, and check the box, but don't be in a hurry to try to check all those boxes because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. And that goes back to one of the items that I said earlier about preparation. This is one of my students sent this to me. This, and quite honestly, I relate to this. This was me when I was in high school. You know, I was the second smallest guy in class. I was the salutatorian of the vertically challenged guys. Thank God for Ronnie Baker, who was the valedictorian of the vertically challenged guys. He was 5'4". He's now a sports broadcaster. He might be retired now, but he was a sports broadcaster in Texas. It was only after I went through all of the training in the military that I came out and I started looking at myself, I can do this. After what? I mean, I'm gonna take classes, nobody's gonna yell and scream at me, nobody's gonna pull me out and say, give me 20 right now, I don't like the way that's supposed to be facing me like that. Why is that crooked? Young man, give me 20. That's the way it is. Well, it was nice to be back in college and nobody's yelling and screaming at you and telling you you have to do 20 push-ups just because your laptop's a little bit different. So it gave me the confidence that I needed to tackle school when I came out. Next slide, please. Okay, I refer to my students as tiger cubs. We all are still learning. I don't care. I'm going to be 77 soon, and I'm still learning. Miss Costeka keeps teaching me how to work the computers without crashing them. Okay, but I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly listening to various podcasts and other learning material that maybe I can bring into my classroom, or just for my own self worth, to basically keep myself fresh so that I don't become like one of these prehistoric dinosaurs. Yes, I understand. And my daughters, they call me and they say, Dad, you're prehistoric. And I went back to them and I said, yeah, I'm prehistoric, but I'm not fossilized yet. I got them back on that one. So the idea is I have found out, because just a side note, 1/3 of my high school class is in the cemetery. We had 314. We have 109 or 100. I think we just had one pass away last week. I manage our Facebook page. So 1/3 of our high school class is in the cemetery. I feel very blessed to be my age and still be able, my brain still works, my body still works, very blessed. Okay. And I just feel that teaching, I tell my students, I'm learning just as much from my students as they're learning from me. I like it when they challenge me with questions. And if I don't know, I'll tell them, but I got a computer now that I can go to and look it up at the break. I had one last night in the night class that asked me a question. And I said, I don't have the answer, but I'll look it up at the break. So I like to be challenged. It's stimulating for my brain. Next slide. We all need guidance and mentoring and training to succeed in life. My parents did a great job for what they had to work with. But I often think about if my parents were a little more educated to give me the guidance, holding me accountable and getting my homework assignments done, how much or how faster I would have accomplished things in life. It still worked out, but kind of like the long, hard way around. But the fact that I broke the chain of no one else in my family going to college, I was the first one to go to college and graduate. My wife was the first one in her immediate family to go to college and graduate. And because we were able to guide our kids, our two daughters, they went to college and they graduated and they're both very successful. And by the way, for those of you who have kids, you know you've made it when your kids come home and want to go out to eat and they pick up the tab. Yes, that's when you know you don't have to pick up the tab. We got it, Dad. We got it, Mom. Oh yeah, now you know all that investment is paid off. A significant time investment learning a massive amount of information in a very short period of time. I have this on my Ivy Learn page for my students because this is the way they are. I said, you're going to be in front of the computer a lot because they have a lot of video to watch. They have a lot of notes to type off those videos. And when they leave my class, they have about a 3-inch binder. Sometimes they have 2 binders full of information that they can just take right to nursing school and refer to that binder while they're in nursing school. That helps them with certain topics there. Okay. As I said before, adversity comes in all sizes and shapes and different levels of intensity. And after they take one of my exams, they kind of feel like they're drowning and they're struggling. We all feel like this in life. Maybe we didn't get the promotion, we didn't get the job that we wanted, and you just kind of feel despair. The idea is hang around the positive people, the people that are going to be supporting you and encouraging you. Stay away from those negative people. Next slide. This is true. Sometimes you feel like you're underwater during your lifetime. Life's job is to provide you with oxygen to survive, and the rest is up to you. Okay? And that comes back to your own desire and effort to set your goals and do what you have to do to reach those goals. Next. And yes, we all get frustrated. And I tell my students, I said, you're probably going to use my name in a non-Christian-like manner somewhere in the 16 weeks. I know because I kind of have the door open. What did you do? So, yes, it's okay. Put your head out the window. Mouse, you know. So, but ultimately, you get it out and you come back in. There are times when the tiger adversity keeps coming at you and you're not sure of how to tame it. And this is where you go to the people that you have a relationship with to a certain degree. It can be one of your academic advisors from a college standpoint. It can be a physician. I know since I've been here, a fair amount of my students have gone through domestic abuse, and the college or individuals know where to guide you to get some assistance with that. So adversity just comes in so many different shapes and sizes. Next. And you're going to get tired because there are just times you keep flooding away, and you're absolutely exhausted. And as a result, it's so easy when you're totally exhausted to give up. Now, what it is, you give yourself a little bit of break, and maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, and maybe a 24-hour period where you don't do all the other things that you want to do. You give yourself that time to re-energize. And I guess the best way for me to put it is take time to just have a couple hours with your friends, 2-3 hours with your friends, people that are positive. Say, man, I'm really struggling with this. And, you know, you need the emotional support as well as the technical support. If you have a problem with the class, make sure you're going to see your professor and talk with them. Look, I'm not getting it. And that happens a lot in my class because there's more technical information. Next. I refer to my class as my students are tiger cubs. And when they complete my class, it's called Earning Your Tiger Stripes. And it's my metaphor, tiger stripes, as my metaphor for knowledge and confidence. When you take 5 2.5-hour exams, plus all the homework that goes along with that class, when you leave after the 5th mental mauling exam, you get a little something from me. And I say, you'll fear no other class other than physics and organic chemistry, which you don't have to take. But nobody's going to push it as far as I push it. And now that you've had to develop time management, you had to eliminate procrastination, you ultimately put yourself in a position to succeed. And not only succeed academically, you eliminate procrastination and develop good time management, you're going to be successful at a whole bunch of other things in life as well. Okay? Next. If we all threw our problems into a pile and solve everyone else's, we'd grab ours back. Quite honestly, what I just did earlier, when I said your fender bender versus your paralysis and everybody else, if we really knew the adversity and the trials and tribulations people are going through, we put them all in a pile, and you're going to say, mine is not so bad, I want mine back. And that's very true. Next. Challenge in life is to keep yourself energized when adversity strikes. This is a tough one. And I guess I learned this in the military is you're constantly exhausted because of the physical training. You're mentally exhausted because of the mental training and the testing that they give you constantly. And you get to the point where you're running out of gas. But you can't run out of gas. Okay, you give yourself a moment to take a breath, to take a few moments. If that can be an hour, great. Talk to one of your good friends, maybe decompress verbally with them, and then get back at it again. Okay, next slide. Success is how high you bounce when you hit the bottom, and that is exactly what that young lady did in that race. She fell down. She didn't say, oh, she tripped, it's her fault, finger pointing and stuff. She got up and she ran the race. And she finished by winning it by 1/1000th of a second. Next, please. The eye of the tiger, often referred to it, it represents tenacity, determination. and the persistence to achieve any goals in life. And that goes back to some of the items that I said earlier, is the fact that the determination, the persistence, knowing that you're going to fail. None of us like to fail. Does anybody here like to fail? Okay, all right, but we've had failure. Okay, I'm looking at your shoes. First time your parents showed you how to tie a shoe, were you successful at it?
Not really.
Not really. You probably put the laces across this way and figure, okay, now how'd you make that loop?
More like
All right. Tying a tie, half Windsor makes your tie crooked, full Windsor makes it nice V shape. Learning how to do that correctly. And we had 2 daughters. I was able to take care of my daughters. My wife would go away on her arts and crafts shows that she would do. And they gave me an appreciation of how hard she worked staying at home. And I was so glad to go to work on Monday morning. Now I could do everything for my daughters except fix their hair. I couldn't do it. I just washed it, blow dried it, and however it came out, that's the way it was. Everything else, yes, okay. So I apologize when I take my daughters out to McDonald's or something, and I say, if I see somebody, you like their hairdo? All right. One of my students made this slide for me and sent it to me. After they had gone through my advanced physiology class, they came out, they finally understood what I was trying to say. And determination, patience, and courage are the only things needed to overcome any situation. Don't let adversity stand in your way. And with that, I'm going to finish up here, and I want to thank Ms. Kosteka for inviting me here. I always enjoy using my life as a motivational tool for young people. I wish I would have run into some people like myself when I was younger. So with that, thank you very much.
You are welcome. Do you guys have any questions? for
Yes,
them?
any questions whatsoever?
Don't answer anything, trust me.
I'm free of the non-disclosure agreement, so I can talk about that.
Y'all want to take his class now, right?
Class just teaches meaning version.
You do not, the only time I teach an 8-week version of summer school,
And you,
and you will barely breathe if you take it in summer school. Now, people do, but it's just, don't plan any, not even a 3-day vacation. You will not see your family, you won't see your friends. Yet that is total focus for 8 weeks. Because there's the homework assignments have to be done in about 72 hours. And we have 5 exams in 8 weeks. And all those exams are everything we do in 16 weeks is compressed into 8 weeks. That's what makes it so brutal. I don't eliminate anything from summer school. Everybody has to earn their tiger stripes, same way.
I'm gonna say Mr. Corso is a good example. If you ever hear anybody tell you that, oh, you're going to community college, that, you know, you're going to easy college. Mr. Corso has been awarded from Valparaiso University because he teaches his class harder than BU's anatomy and physiology, that our students leave here taking his class, go over there and are actually tutoring nursing students over there who don't understand acid-base balance and all that kind of stuff. So never let anybody tell you that we're easy over here. We're not easy. This class, yes. This class is easy. I'll pass. But our upper classes, you're getting just as good of an education as if you walked into IU, Purdue, VU. So you're just getting it at a better price, closer to home, so that you can do the things you guys need to do. And so it's good to have professors be recognized from here, because it shows that our students are just as good as any student that's walking into a 4-year university. And some of it, such as our nursing program, you can walk out of here within about 2 years and get the same job someone walking out of nursing with a 4-year degree is getting. Pretty much the same pay too. And by the time, like I've been telling our nursing students, a lot of times you can walk in with your associate's degree and they'll pay you to go back and get your bachelor's, your master's, your DNP. So be proud being here. Even if this is just your stepping stone, it's a great stepping stone because you also know a great value. So you're saving money. So that's a good thing. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Corso, for coming. talking about anniversary and anniversary. That would be your wife talking
Well,
about
that's more,
She was
next month, I mean.
adversity. And thank you guys, and you guys can go. Thank you guys for coming. See you next Tuesday. All right. Thank you, sir.